Alright, welcome back to episode 3 of this Let's Play. And we are finally going to start setting up our tank. Now, I want to make sure I've got all of the plants that I need. Yes, I do believe so. So I have all of the plants that I need. I'm going to get rid of all of my plants and all of my animals, and then we'll start setting up our tank. Alright, so I got rid of all of my plants, all of my animals. I just have my sponge left, which will eventually give me some flatworms back. But what I want to do first is I want to enlarge my tank to be as big as it can. Before I even do that, I'm going to build up the sides here. So I've moved my sides up, and then I'm going to add on my other 2 tanks. And so what this does is it lets me kind of remember about how much space I had in that first tank. And then I'll do something similar to each of these sides. I'll bring it down a little bit, just get these edges up, and then add the next tanks. So I've let myself know, where the edges will be. Add on our next tanks. We now have the largest vivarium that we could get. Now, I have done a little bit of planning on paper for this. I haven't actually run through this. I don't know if it will work. But my goal is to get about 5 different separate ecosystems and then lower the water so that they are actually separated by land. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time here just sort of getting that set up, and then I'll see you when I get back. Alright, so I've got my 5 different regions. At this point they're equally spaced, but I am going to change that because I want to think about what am I going to put into each of these places. And this is what I've sort of tried to plan out a little bit on paper, just to hopefully keep some organization to this in the future. I'll kind of explain why probably in another episode. But what I'm planning to do over here with this first one, the idea is to sort of go through the evolutions as we move through this. And so I do want to keep an area that's just for flatworms, which means I'm going to end up making this a bit smaller. It doesn't need this whole area if it's just for flatworms. Then moving on here, my plan is to put fish, slugs, and silverfish into this area. This way, once I have all of them here, I can kill off the flatworms. I won't need any flatworms, and none of them will evolve into anything else. They'll keep their most basic animal features. They won't start to morph into other things. So then in this middle one, similar idea, I'm going to put the horseshoe crabs and the crustaceans, as well as snails. Once I've got all of those, I'll kill off any flatworms I use to get there, and then all 3 of those animals will keep their basic features. They won't be evolving towards anything past that. Then in this 4th slot, I plan to put amphibians and the sea scorpions. Again, hopefully keeping them as natural to their starting features as possible. I do plan to put a bit of a land area here where we'll finally have our insects and reptiles' homes. But I have this other space here with some water so that I can get another group of amphibians over here that will hopefully be just eating the plants to transform into the insects and reptiles, and then I'll be removing those amphibians. So that's my planned layout for my vivarium. I'm going to take just a moment here. I'm going to do some editing of the land, and then I'll see you back here when I'm mostly happy with my design. Okay, I'm mostly happy with this. I could probably spend more time working on it, but I don't want to spend hours and hours on this. So, just to recap, we're ultimately going to be lowering the water. I hope this works. I've never really tried it after I get families in here. But the idea is to separate out these places. Now, at the end, the amphibians are going to be the hardest. So I'm going to have just some amphibians going in here. It's a little cramped, I know. But they can come out of the water, and they'll be eating and hopefully turn into the reptiles and insects. Now, I'm going to have amphibians over here as well, but I'm going to try and place the amphibian home way over here to the left and give them some other food sources to eat. I hope that they don't also try and eat the plants over here and start evolving as well, but we'll deal with that when we get there. That's hours away. So I should be able to get set up now with some homes, and I'm going to make a bunch of different flatworm families. I believe I'm going to need 13 of them. So I'm going to get set up with some homes placed and some different flatworm families. Alright, I've got my 13 families. All these flatworms, 13 families. You'll notice they all have a home. None of them have that missing home symbol. So they're all going to want to go to one of these homes that I've placed throughout my tank. Now, what I want to set up next will be some food sources near their homes that should turn them into what I want them to be. And this is where I haven't really tested this. If, you know, for example, I've got my home way over here. I want these just to stay looking like flatworms. I'll probably just put some monocots and reeds. I hope they will stay around here to eat, instead of going over here to eat the other plants that I'll be putting. I don't quite know if this experiment is going to work, but my plant, or my tank is set up about how I was planning to do it. Now, I'm not quite going to take the water level down just yet, because I really want them to get used to their homes and get some food in there for maybe a couple of generations, maybe one or two. And see, I just lost a home. Whenever you move stuff, things like that can happen. I don't remember which home that is. I don't know. I'll have to figure that out later. But what I'm going to do next is try and get my various types of plants around the homes that I want, and then we'll see what happens. So I've got my first couple of plants, and later I'm going to work on getting the actual plant types that I want. I'm just trying to run this experiment to see if it'll actually get me all of my animal species living where I want them to. Then we'll worry about making some designer plants. But I've got just some reeds and some monocots over here for my flatworms to eat, and hopefully not evolve any special characteristics to make them look like a horseshoe crab or something else. So I hope that works. I'm not sure if it will, but there is my first little setup with some reeds and some monocots. So next I've got to do some plants for fish, slugs, and silverfish in this second part. Welcome back. I've got my second place decorated. We've got our low complex plants right here. These should get us our slugs. I've got my tall complex ones, which should give me my crustaceans, which will then eat the low complex ones and become silverfish. And then I've got my tall simple plants for my fish. Alright, so we've got two places decorated. Moving on, we're going to need to get our crabs, horseshoe crabs that is, crustaceans, and then some slugs, which will then turn into snails. So I'll be back once I've got that set up. Alright, we've got our next place set up. We've got some low simple leaves for our horseshoe crabs. Then we've got our tall complex leaves for some crustaceans. And then some, what's for slugs? These low complex ones for slugs will then hopefully eat some of these low simple leaves. So I'm going to put some more of these over here. And then there was something that I think might be useful for some players that I'll show you in just a second here. Because I wanted to make sure that I got all my homes used up again. So there we go. We've got a couple more of those over there. And so I had one that was not in a home. And so I needed to make sure that wasn't the case. I wanted them all to be in homes, hopefully eating their proper food. And the way you can check, I had to check all of mine to figure out which one didn't have an animal home. But if you click on one of the animals in each family, each sort of housing place, it'll, or even I guess just hover over it, you can see here it lights up the home, or it highlights the home where they are. And so I went through and I highlighted there that one's over on the right, that one's also on the right, this one's kind of in the middle. I just went through and I checked all of my homes until I've realized which one didn't have a family there yet, and I just reset it. I picked it up and placed it again, and so now we're all good. Everybody's got homes. Hooray, hooray. Alright, I've got just a couple more to set up. I'm going to do them both at the same time because I'm doing amphibians here and also getting set up for amphibians on the right here. And then we'll also do what we need for our sea scorpions in the middle. Alright, we've got all of the different plants that we'll need. In the middle here we needed all 4 types. And then I duplicated what I needed for the amphibians. So I'm going to let this run for a little bit, and then I'm going to try and lower the water level. And so my hope is I'm going to try and hopefully find... Okay, good. He's over here and by the home. That's what I wanted. I'm hoping... Alright, they're over here and by the home as well. So my hope, if I just let this run for a little bit, is that all of the different flatworms will kind of be around their home. Because now they all have food sources right next to their homes, and they're the food sources I'm hoping to use to evolve them specifically where they are. Now, I haven't done this yet. Normally when I do these videos, I do a test run first so that I don't look like a fool. I look like a fool anyway. But I'm going to give this a try. I figured spending all this time, I know I edit the video so it doesn't seem like as long. I didn't want to do this twice, and so I figured we would just learn together if this works. So let's just run it at a pretty decent speed, you know, middle speed for a little bit. I'm also hoping to see that they're eating these things. Yeah, I see all of these things popping up. I feel like they are eating. Hopefully they're not crossing over into other people's areas too much. That should be good enough. It looks like they've all moved around enough. So let's pause. And I really hope this works. If it doesn't, I'll just come up with another idea that I want to try. But I'm going to lower the water level so that these regions are actually separated. And the flatworms will no longer be able to just go wherever they want. Okay. I think having it paused would be the way to do this, right? Shift and click. Alright. And then they all lost their homes. Oh, man. Or did it just make a bunch more families? It made a bunch more families that don't have homes. Okay. I think it kind of worked. I don't think that it didn't quite work how I hoped. I'm just gonna look region by region. I'm betting that there's not gonna be any over here because they don't really like eating this stuff. They're gonna prefer the more nutrient stuff. So my attempt at saving my monocots from the future doesn't look like that really worked. In here, yeah, we've got some in here. Oh, maybe they're actually hiding in their shell. I don't know. Here, let's zoom out. All right, so we've got some over there. We've got some there in the second one. Homeless is in the third one. Second one. I lost which one I was clicked on. Is it this? I don't know. I really just want to see if any show up over here on the left. So we've got some way over on the right. That's good. Where are you? Oh, you're just kind of homeless in the air. Okay, maybe you'll find a home. Second one, homeless in the air. We've got ones in there. Alright, so we have flatworms everywhere. They might be homeless. You know, help them out. Give them $1. Okay, so we've got them everywhere. I still am not seeing any Ooh, haha. This one looks like it worked. It's over here. All right, so I think it worked. Wasn't quite as smooth as I hoped. I didn't expect to get all these new families created without homes. I'm wondering, sometimes if you let it run, they will just join a home. But there are too many of them, and I don't want to start killing them off until I get my new species that I'm really interested in. So I am going to let this run until hopefully I get a couple of new species, and then we'll kill off some of them and we'll go from there. I'm not quite sure what the time is for how long this video is at this point, but this might be the end of our episode 3. So one thing I notice, my tank's not that beautiful. I'll just talk about this before we end our episode. My tank is currently not beautiful. I didn't try to make it beautiful. I just wanted to see if this concept would work of creating these different environments and hopefully maintaining some uniqueness amongst our animals as we move forward. But the next thing, once I get the animals that I want, I will start using Eddy Gene fairly extensively to create the look for all of these different types of plants that I actually do want to have. So that's the real next big goal after we get... Now we basically just have to wait at this point and we'll get our animals. Hopefully all of them, except for I haven't set up yet for the reptiles and insects. We gotta wait for amphibians, which is going to take a while anyway. But we'll make our tank look beautiful. You know, we'll add decorations up here on the top. We'll get some trees. We'll get some color. It's mostly all just green right now. We'll get some flowers and fruits, and there's all sorts of cool plants that you can make. And we will worry about making the tank pretty once we have our animals. But yeah, that is going to be it for our 3rd episode. I'm fairly excited that this turned out the way that it did. I don't want to be clicked on you anymore. Where are you? Here. Go away. Okay. So I think it basically worked. We'll get our animals, and then I'm just going to kill off all of the flatworms except for any of them that actually survived over here. We'll take a look at that in our next episode, and I will see you then.